What is your main? Because obviously artists have. I mean, an artist by nature is one that's adept to kind of be influenced by inspiration from any corner.
Right, yeah.
Whether it could be the way a leaf falls, and you're a painter, and you're like, "Whoa, I want to."
Anyway, you're certainly not always influenced by music, right?
Yeah. But I'm curious to see, what for you is kind of like the well that you constantly return to kind of. I mean, is it your children?
That's interesting. Wow, that's a really good question. Because it is sort of hard to refill your battery, right? Or to find inspiration continually. I find that's the challenge in writing for years and years is to stay interested.
Right.
Because honestly, when you're 22, you got a lot to say. You're angry, and you built up a lifetime of angst to get out.
Right.
And I definitely notice, you get older, I hit the full geezerdom now, and into 40, and I really see, I have less to say, I feel like. Anyway, but to your point, I think, I'm funny. I definitely books, a lot of movies to some extent, but I'm not a very visual person in the moving way. Mm-hmm. So to me, it tends to be, it's funny. Yeah, other singers, like the Marvin Gayes of the world, things that are really deep and rich, and then books, architecture. I love to go to the library. I'm such a geek. I'll go to Kalia knows I'll go to the library for a while, especially when I didn't have a straight day job, and get a ridiculous stack of books I could never read.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's funny, right?
I grew up in a household. My mom and dad were avid readers, and we would go to the library and take out the maximum of books.
That's what we do.
13 books or something like that.
Do, exactly.
And then you take them home, and I remember just laying them out on my bed. I'm like, all right, which one am I going to read? And my mom is such an avid reader that the Montebello Public Library, hopefully you're not watching, we owe like $260 because she found these dope cookbooks.
She wouldn't take them back.
And she didn't want to take them back. She's like, I'll take the loss. What are they going to do, collect on me?
Right.
But I mean, it's amazing how certain things for certain people are just like, bam, like that's going to feed me every time.
I think you got it. I mean, you're right. You got it. I always think what goes in comes out, and feed yourself well with good things, because you can damage yourself sort of psychically with too many bad movies.
Right.
It's like the junk food of the mind.
That's a good point. And you don't always have that filter, because people think I can be around bad stuff. Like we're talking about the show.
It's very challenging, I think.
But over time, it weighs on you.
I mean, I feel like that. Too much media. It's too much. I find more than ever, because we're so inundated. I gotta just turn it all off. Nowadays. I'm almost more influenced by silence,
right.
Less of everything. Things are so fast. It's true. It's like you just want time to go sit outside and look at the trees, or
Right.
And we're big. We love, in Altadena, it's all about walking in the canyon.
Yeah,
getting out of the house, and we probably use the mountains like people use the beach or something.
Right.
So. It's funny though. You got to refill the battery though. You definitely got to find things that are. That feed you.
Right.
I'm trying to think if there's anything specific and fun.
No, I think that's the beauty of it, though, is being able to kind of recognize what it is that has that piece of your happy pie. Like, books do it for me. So you go to books.
And I'm sure, like going to Little Dragon, going to these other artists that you find so deeply inspiring. It's funny, we've been going on, and we're like the gushing.
No, we are. You would think like one of us dating Yukimi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's funny because I can't think of a band in years though that really, I enjoyed that much.
Right.
There's very few people that do that to me.
I think. I think what stands out to me about your sound and the other artists that I love very fondly, and I'll end on this note, is that there's a certain aspect of being conscientious of everything going on around you, and kind of the interweaving of everything. So it's like you see, and there's movies that have been done, they're probably with that little kid from The Sixth Sense, but it's like everyone's interconnected, and you kind of, you speak to these ties and these kind of complex, simplistically complex emotions, and the things that everyone goes through, yet because you're so inundated with the media and these sources of information, that you lose sight of that. So I think your records, like a Little Dragon record, even like a Beatles record, makes you stop.
Yeah, it's a little, it demands, I think, like, especially, I think you're right on artists like that, where they, it's such a radically different tone. It's about itself. It's not referential. I mean, I think that's maybe some of what we're talking about is that so much art has become, and this is sort of to the point we were talking about earlier about how things follow each other and how whether you're aping a style or you're doing an homage to a style, and somehow I think we start, often our artists nowadays, how we make art is very carefully copying older things.
Right.
And so much art has become about being referential and oppositional to things that already existed. In fact, like in the graphic world, we do this now. Everything completely references other work. That's the whole point about it. It's kind of this deconstructionist, right, thing.
Right.
And at some point, sometimes it's nice to see things like Little Dragon that doesn't seem to reference anything but the tone of the song.
Right.
Or I'm trying to think of other artists that.
Well, even like a Flying Lotus.
Or Flying Lotus.
But he it's funny because these artists still extract,
Mm-hmm.
but they cut the pieces, the slivers so thin that it almost like remember in Goodfellas when Paulie's in prison, or Paul Sorvino's in prison, and he's cutting the garlic so thin that when you cook it, it dissolves. Kind of that thing.
That's a funny, it's funny. That's a really good metaphor, actually, because that's very much like, I think Flying Lotus is a good point, because do we know that Steve is referencing other musics? Of course we know that. But he's so in his own world, and it's kind of like, I think it's like people like Maya Angelou and people like this that talk about doing the work, So Steve's clearly concerned with the work.
Right.
And like we said, and everything after that is politics. It's just what he has to do with it. But the beginning part is you do the work because you do the work.
Right.
And then you figure out how to dispense it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like opening a store with no product, or
Good point.
It's like you want to have a pie shop, but you don't know how to make a pie.
Well, in Garth Trinidad, I was reading an interview with Garth Trinidad, and this will be the last point, I promise.
We'll stop.
I was reading an interview with Garth because I've always admired Garth and his selection. And again, I think there's a certain sensitivity that's required to be able to pick those sounds and kind of put them together. But he said, I've never been a big promotion guy. I've always felt that the people who are supposed to get it will get it.
That's you couldn't say that any better. And thankfully we have people like the Garths, and the Abrahams of the world, and the Anthony Valdez, and the Jeremy Souls that share this with us.
Right.
But yeah, that is incredibly well said, and I think that's exactly the point. It's not like we're saying, you do it because you do it, and then you hope people pick up on it.
So, Soundwaves KPFK, the soundtrack of the World Wide Web. I'm smiling because I love this, man. This is fantastic.
This
so
all day,
baby.
Well, yeah.
He's got his son.
We're changing our James Lipton a little.
We are changing our James Lipton.
If
James Lipton listened to Dilla, that'd be me.
I promise you, the next interview we'll do it at darker space. I'll take the sunglasses off too. So
we will.
I'm blind. I'm telling you, I am.
He is, but he's got a heart made of gold.
I see good out of one of it.
This is Soundwaves KPFK, the soundtrack of the World Wide Web. I'm your host, Abraham Beltran. My man Damon Aaron.
Yeah, give thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
And we will catch you soon. Until then, catch the website, soundwaveskpfk.com, for many more interviews and goodies. Until next time, peace.
Check out my dad, Damon Aaron, at myspace.com/Damon Aaron or damonaaron.org.